All right, coming up on this episode of Hot Takes, we are going to discuss whether or not Kathleen Kennedy is the reason why Star Wars has failed, and does she deserve all the blame that a few very loud
million people
are screaming about.
Ooh.
All right, Ged. So,
the witch hunt.
Yeah. So let me give you my take on this, on Mrs.
Right.
Kathleen. First off, Kathleen Kennedy, some people might not even know this. They just zero in on her as the blame. She's been in the industry forever. She's likely responsible for creating some of your favorite childhood memories, whether it's
like what?
Well, you know, maybe Indiana Jones, Back to the Future.
Come on.
I don't know, some little movie about genetically bringing back dinosaurs. I don't know. You might have heard of Jurassic Park. You know that one?
Might have heard of it.
Might have heard of that one?
Might have heard of it.
You know, It might be on a lot of people's top 10 list. I don't know. And then, you know, she had a great relationship with Steven Spielberg, and then eventually she hooked up with George Lucas, and she worked her way into his number 2. And when George sold it, she was under contract. She became the president of Lucasfilm when Disney acquired it. Disney extended her till, I think, 2022 or 2023. She has 1 or 2 years left on her contract. So that's where she stands. And before I start my argument, this is by no means like, Kathleen definitely deserves blame for the sequel trilogies, but as much as she deserves blame for that, she actually should then deserve credit for the Mando, for bringing back Clone Wars Season 7, and for this whole new slate of productions we have. Now, let me tell you why.
Okay.
A lot of the stuff we're hearing is, you know, the main issue has pushing this woke agenda and, you know, social justice warriors, yada, 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 yada. It's gotten so ridiculous at a point. I don't even know, you know, you and me kind of touched on it in our diversity video. It's gotten to the point where you almost can't even have, the second you put a female lead in something, all of a sudden, oh, that's woke. Like, it has an agenda. You know what I mean? It's gotten that extreme. Like, can't we just, like, trust that they're going to build a good character nowadays? The noisy ones on the internet who are bringing up a lot of this rumor and helping churn that hate, like, that's the agenda they're pounding deeply. And again, you know, the sequel trilogy, there were ideals, woke, ideas and stuff like that definitely didn't work or didn't land, and they've obviously adjusted and moved forward. And I'm willing to give her the benefit of the doubt. And you know what? Even if the Mandalorian and Clone Wars and all that was purely Filoni and Favreau, that's fine. Kathleen Kennedy at the end of the day is still the boss, and she still enabled them to do that work. So whether she was, and like the big thing too is, I don't think anyone actually knows what she actually does. And if there's that many snitches with that much good information that know exactly what's going on, you know, she's got a clean house because she can't trust a single person she works with. So that's why I doubt that's the case. Like, if you asked my wife what I do for a living and to tell you what my core work is, she couldn't tell you. She lives with me, talks to me every day. She would not be able to tell you what I actually do. So the fact
Tyler,
that...
Tyler, you and I have been friends from a since I have no idea what you do.
Yeah. So
and my wife used to work for the exact same company.
Yeah. So the fact that the internet has Kathleen's 9 to 5 completely pegged down to exactly what she's responsible and what she isn't it seems a little ridiculous to me.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
If all of us had a microscope of what our 9 to 5 looked like, how would we justify this?
Exactly. I'd be called...
because this is not 7 a.m. and it sure as hell not 7 p.m.
I'd be called lazy, unfocused, you know, he's not willing to go the extra mile for the bottom line, like...
Yep.
And so I like to think about this in kind of a sports analogy. You know, we have, let's pick on the NFL for a second. We have these billion-dollar owners who buy this team, and a lot of the time they buy a team for passion and because they're a fan, right? And an owner doesn't necessarily make a great football person. Everyone likes to play the armchair GM. So you have some franchises where the owner essentially is dictating to the football people, if you want to keep your job, you got to make this happen, this happen, this happen. You know, it doesn't take too much to look at my beloved Jets or the Cowboys, the Redskins, the Raiders. The reason why those franchises have struggled so much is because a lot of the time the owner is too involved. And the good run franchises, and again, the responsibilities of an owner is more than just the product on the field, right? You got, advertising, marketing, you got to sell seats, you got to, merchandising. Yep. There's so much stuff going on that you can't just focus all your stuff there. You got to hire competent people to take care of that piece. And that's probably no different than being the president of Lucasfilm. Yes, she's an executive producer, but she's getting to the point where she has so many hats on. Is she truly responsible for writing the entire narrative and story and pointing out where it's going to go? I doubt that. And if she did overstep too much on the sequel trilogy, and now she's taken a little bit of a step back and said, you know what, John, Dave, you guys, I'm going to just, here's my 2 bits, you guys run with it. People might say, well, Kathleen didn't do anything, but she did. She took a step back, right? She trusted in the person to run her franchise, and they were successful at it. So to me, like, as simple, if she just took a step back, she deserves credit for that, because that's recognizing the talent you brought in and letting them do their work.
Actually, you and I, unfortunately, do not disagree on this one.
Yeah.
I always much prefer it when we do not agree. But the greatest attribute of any leader is their ability to find talent. I mean, regardless of what you do for a living, whether you're a director in a corporation, you're executive producer, the president of Lucasfilm, or you run a small business that does air conditioning and heating, you don't have to be the best technician. You don't have to be the best director in this case. You don't have to be the best specialist in a corporation. What you need to do is find the right people around you. Now, most of us who have ever been in a position of any type of leadership or had to onboard people or find talent, you're never going to bat 100. You're never going to bat 1,000 ever. You're always going to bring people on that you thought were going to be amazing. And those people, most of the time, not maliciously, may end up roasting you.
What are you laughing at, Flav? You look like Whoopi Goldberg and Gollum from Lord of the Rings. Had an abortion.
It's not done in any heated argument or anything. Things just don't work out. And J.J. Abrams, in my opinion, like I would have... Whoa, wait. Almost kicked my camera over there. I would have put the farm on J.J. Abrams coming off of the Star Trek trilogy, which, if you've watched any of my stuff on Fabulous Flix, I tout that as some of the best sci-fi I've seen in years. Yeah. Like, if he came to me as Kathleen Kennedy and said, I want to do this, I'd be like, yep. I don't know as much about Rian Johnson, but again, there are very smart people around Kathleen Kennedy helping make these decisions. She's not a dictator. So I agree. If people are gonna smash on her for what happened with the sequel trilogy, then they have to be the first people to jump on the bandwagon when it comes to what's happened with Clone Wars, with The Mandalorian, and with what's going onwards over the next
we're getting
kind of
an
10
Ahsoka
years.
show, like
Like, and in terms of the woke agenda, I don't want to dive too much into this because you and we've had this conversation, not qualified to chuck opinions around when it comes to this.
Yeah.
But if I am a female in leadership in Hollywood right now, society and the internet has told me that it is my priority to place strong female leads in a Hollywood society where we do need more of that. I've been very upfront of the fact that even though some people have not done it subtly, like for example the MCU, the fact that they're making this effort is a very positive thing, and it's way overdue. I mean, Filoni and Favreau nailed it in The Mandalorian, which we've chatted about, but unfortunately there's going to be that cloud lingering over any strong female presence in Hollywood to not, I don't want to say push that agenda, but continue to take that movement forward. And we saw that even most recently with WW84, And quickly remind me who the director of that was.
Patty Jenkins.
Yeah. Who is doing the Squadrons movie.
Yeah.
Rogue Squadron. Thank you. Again, I mean, there's an inherent duty to create strong female characters in today's society, especially from a female director. So I don't know if she had much of a choice when it came to that. I think that it was her happy obligation to do so. And I agree. If you're going to crush her for the one, you have to give her praise for the other. You can't shoot the general then celebrate the soldiers afterwards. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you know, unfairly or not, the person in charge will get the blame, or, you know, sometimes a lot of time not even get the credit, right?
And that's the case here.
And go back to sports, right? Like, say the owner meddles too much and then he takes a step back and they draft a good quarterback and they have a good coach, they win the Super Bowl. Who's getting celebrated? It's the quarterback who won the game or something like that, right?
Look at Dallas. Look at Dallas in the 90s. What is it? Jerry Jones is the owner.
Yeah.
Everyone is crushing him right now as an owner, but yet Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman, those guys in their heyday, they got all the kudos. Like,
yeah. And just like right now,
I get it.
Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are getting everything, right? Like, everyone's Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and like Luke shows up. Oh my God, Luke saved Star Wars. But like, who do you think gave the the check mark of yes, approved for that? You know?
Yeah.
That went up a certain ladder, I bet.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a gentleman who will remain nameless years ago, and he is the owner of a business, and he had this is a very true story, and he obviously had a lot of yucky, crappy decisions he had to make every day. Mm-hmm. And him and I were very close outside of work. And he's like, Getty's like, I don't understand. He's like, people don't understand like the decisions I have to make every day. He's like, I just want people to love me and respect me. And I said, blank, you either get to make all the money and be in charge, or you get to be loved. Most of the time you can't have both. And I remember us sitting in his office. I remember it vividly. And he kind of looked at me. He's like, I'd never thought of it that way. Like, me as the guy underneath him, I get to be loved because I get to be the one to spread that positive message and be client facing. Whereas, there's this person who has to make all the tough calls. And unfortunately, you're never going to get both. Yeah,
for sure. And, and just to kind of sum it up for all you Kathleen haters out there, if this hasn't convinced you, theoretically the jury's still out, right? Yes, we have a slew of new Star Wars coming out, but let's see how it goes. If the next, we got Bad Batch coming in the Book of Boba this year. If they're slam dunks,
Bad Batch,
Kathleen's still not going to get any praise. It's going to be like, oh my God, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are gods, which they are, because they're primarily doing the work. But Kathleen deserves some praise for letting them off the leash, so to speak. If that 100%. Was the problem with the sequel trilogy, right? If she was too controlling. So, all right, good. So I think we're on the same page. That should wrap this one up, buddy. You want to do a shout out for Fabulous Flix? What do you got cooking for us?
Well, I've been drifting down the streaming world. I figure we're all stuck at home, so each month, while we are in lockdown or stay at homes, I will be doing my top 5, mainly movies, other than the odd exception, which came out today. As to what to watch over the next 30 days, there's a pile of content coming this year. So my goal is to kind of help spread that word to anybody and everybody who will listen, as well as my normal kind of retro movie reviews, and going to start doing a bunch of collabs. I'd actually love to have you on because you watch stuff other than Star Wars. And as well, I'm going to start teaming up with like local politicians and as well as people that are doing some charity work to help kind of spread their message of what they're doing in our community during this time.
Nice, man. Looking forward to it. And for people who don't realize, we're obviously in lockdown now, which is why we're back to this format. And it sounds like a lot of other people might be in similar situations. So, stay safe and keep watching.
Yes, please do.
Yeah. All right. Check out everyone on the next video.
All right. Take care, guys.